Hello again, I'm Brandon Lee, and this video is going to be all about the new DJI Osmo Nano. What you've got here is a tiny action camera and a unique multi-function vision dock. The camera shoots 10-bit D-Log-M and uses a new 1/1.3 inch sensor with 13.5 stops of dynamic range for better highlights and shadows. You can do slow motion at up to 4K 120, and you still get a really wide 143-degree field of view. It is waterproof, it works with DJI mics, the battery lasts 200 minutes, and it supports fast charging. And it's magnetic for all sorts of fun and creative mounting options. And best of all, it has up to 128 gigabytes of internal storage. And then there's this multifunctional vision dock, which you can use as a wireless monitor, remote control, and for high-speed file transfer. So you can use it to preview your framing while you shoot, and you can adjust all the camera settings as well. The vision dock doesn't have internal storage, but it does have a micro SD card slot. Alright, so let's go try out this camera and see how well it performs, starting with the most important thing of all, image quality. Tiny action cameras used to suffer greatly in the image quality department due to the fact that they're tiny and high quality sensors are big. Well, DJI has finally stepped things up with the Nano, and I'd say this is the first thumb-sized camera that I'd actually consider using on a real shoot. The footage looks really good even when you view it on a bigger screen, and this is because of the relatively large sensor. It's 1/1.3 inches, which means you can use it in lower light scenarios and still get smooth shots that aren't ruined by high ISO noise. You can also record in 4:3 mode just like the Osmo Action and Pocket cameras, which is great when you need to use the same footage for horizontal and vertical, or when you're just shooting something that's difficult to frame. You can shoot in that 4:3 mode at up to 50 frames per second. The Nano does shoot slow motion up to 4K 120, which is pretty amazing for a camera this size. I didn't see a noticeable crop in my footage at any frame rate. The thing to keep in mind though is the stabilization will turn itself off when you're shooting at 120p. The Nano is waterproof, and DJI says it will work up to 10 meters, and the vision dock is IPX4 rated, which means it's splash proof, but it shouldn't go underwater. So feel free to bring the Nano to the beach, just don't dunk the monitor underwater. Now, it isn't new for action cameras to have great image stabilization. I just thought I'd show some examples of the handheld shots I was able to do with the Nano. You can definitely avoid using a gimbal if you do a good, smooth ninja walk. What I found really helpful was the horizon balancing stabilization, which gives you a perfectly level horizon even if you aren't holding the camera perfectly level, but it does crop the image a bit to compensate. You can get a pretty clean image in low light with the Osmo Nano because it has a large sensor for a camera this size. Here's some sample shots from dusk at the beach. I shot these in normal video mode, and I set the shutter manually to 1/50th of a second because that slower shutter lets more light in. The main thing to remember though with the slower shutter is that the stabilization is not going to work as well. So you'll want to move slower and more smoothly with the camera so that you don't get unwanted motion blur in the footage. The Osmo Nano has a built-in mic, which is what you're hearing right now, and it works perfectly fine for simple vlogging scenarios like this if you just want to walk around and talk without having to worry about any extra gear. I wouldn't recommend it for any situations with a lot of wind or where you want to get further from the camera, but for this kind of simple scenario, it is just fine. You can also connect up to 2 mics from the DJI mic series to the Nano with no external receiver needed. So basically you just put your mics in pairing mode and they will connect automatically. And you can even see a display of the mic's internal battery and storage. Now you're hearing the audio from the mic 2 on my shirt, and it's connected wirelessly to the Osmo Nano. So one thing that you should be aware of though, if you want to preview the video of what you're shooting, you do have to connect the vision dock, the little screen, to the Osmo Nano camera in order to get video preview while you're using an external mic. So basically, once that mic is connected, you have to connect both parts of the Osmo Nano, the monitor and the camera, in order to get live video monitoring. And you do still get some pretty good range from your audio. I'm going to test it out right now. I am walking away quickly, going further and further. Let's say I'm about 100 yards away, and now I'm about to lose sight of the camera. So this is how it sounds. Practically speaking, you don't really have to worry about range though, because I would never go that far from the Osmo Nano when I'm recording audio because it's a wide angle lens. If you go too far, you won't even see yourself in the shot. Another thing I want to talk about here is the optional ND filters. These are like sunglasses for your camera, allowing a slower shutter in bright light. Here's a shot I did without the ND filter, and here's a shot with ND. Notice how without the ND filter you have no motion blur, so it looks like your typical phone or action cam footage. And with the ND filter, the motion looks more smooth and natural. To install these filters, you unscrew the glass protective filter, and then you screw in an ND filter to replace it. Then you set your shutter speed to twice the frame rate. For instance, if you're shooting 24p, your frame rate should be 1/50th. For 30p, you should use 1/60th, and so on. If you're shooting 120 frames a second, your shutter speed should be 1/240th of a second. So if you're serious about shooting cinematically with your Nano, I highly suggest getting the ND filter kit. Okay, now for the fun stuff. There's a lot of ways to creatively mount the Nano because it is so tiny and because it has a lot of accessories for mounting. So let's try some stuff out and see what we get. The Nano fits just about anywhere because it is so tiny. So let's demonstrate that by doing a quick shot inside a coconut. All I had to do was drop the Nano in the coconut, check my framing with the vision dock, and then open the coconut to get this unusual angle. It also works with fries. Good luck getting this shot with your Alexa, Mr. Deakins. The Nano is magnetic on the side and on the back, which makes it really easy to mount without any other accessories needed. So as long as you have something metal nearby, you can get a well-framed shot. For this shot, I just dropped the Nano on this metal chair, and I didn't even bother to fix the horizon because I used the horizon balancing stabilization, and the Nano fixed that horizon for me. The suction cup is perfect for smooth surfaces like tables, and it has an adjustable ball head on top for getting the perfect angle. So we could film ourselves eating while still being able to check our framing out on the screen. The magnetic necklace is super convenient for getting a quick POV shot. All you have to do is wear the necklace under your shirt and then drop the Nano on it and you're ready to go. I left the vision dock on the suction cup here to easily preview my framing. The necklace is perfect when you want a chest level POV shot with both your hands in the frame. You can magnetically attach this tripod / GoPro mount, which has flip out GoPro attachment tongs. Or if you have some kind of tripod with a 1/4 inch attachment on top, you can just screw in the Nano and then you have an ultra lightweight travel tripod setup. The magnetic headband mount has a nice cushion for your forehead, and you can quickly drop the Nano on it and then adjust the angle. So this is really great for getting easy POV shots. Another option for POV shots is this hat clip mount, which attaches to the brim of your hat, and it lets you get POV shots like this one. You can also get creative with where you clip the mount. I used it for an easy dog POV shot here. Then I clipped it to the dog harness and I got a reverse POV. Then I flipped around the Nano on that magnetic mount and I got this front view angle. Since the Nano is so small and it can get clean shots in lower light environments, it's great for getting hidden camera type shots in places where you don't want to attract attention. For instance, we filmed several shots in this bookstore without anyone noticing. First, I mounted the monitor so that it faced me. Then I turned off notification sounds. Then I put the Nano behind some books. Then I did all my settings on the monitor, bumping up the ISO a bit to 400 and checking my framing. And this is the final result. Next, I magnetically attached the Nano to a bookshelf, and here's the shot that I got. And for this one, I used the hat clip as a mini tripod, which allowed me to tilt the camera down a bit. Then I placed the monitor on a lower shelf for previewing the framing, and I filmed us reading a book. Here's one using the suction cup mount, another easy shot. I was even able to get a shot on an escalator by sticking the suction cup to the handrail. I just had to remember to grab the camera before the end of the ride. Finally, let's talk about time-lapse. The Osmo Nano has a dedicated time-lapse mode, and I did some test shots using the 3-second interval with a 1.5-second shutter speed. To get the correct exposure, I added an ND8 filter, and then I just set down the Nano and I let it record for a while. Much easier than using a camera on a tripod. I was able to attach it to metal surfaces and easily get time lapses without attracting any attention. I could even shoot a hyperlapse on this tram. I used the hat clip and I attached the Nano to the front window, and nobody noticed my tiny camera and it didn't block anybody's view. I ended up getting the perfect perspective for a classic Hong Kong hyperlapse. And here's a daytime version using that same technique. So that's my first look at the Osmo Nano. I'll definitely be keeping it in my bag at all times because it is so small and versatile. Links are in the video description if you want to find out more. Otherwise, please click like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.